of the Sportsline Podcast, and we certainly appreciate you hanging out with us. I'm Bubba O'Neill. The Spotlight, as you all know, the best of sports from Southern Ontario, and when we can, we love to feature those who are getting it done in Hamilton, Halton, and Niagara. Today, a blast from the past in my life and also this podcast. We'll talk about getting it done. This Mohawk College radio graduate has long made his mark as a sports television host, but even more dear to his heart, he's the second of the well-known Foxcroft clan in stripes. Translation? Well, the vice president for Fluke Transport and a Fox 40 executive. In addition, he was a top-notch OUA and NCAA basketball official, and he's a veteran member of the Buffalo Bills chain gang, and you see him at Raptor games, of course, when they want to do replays. He's an NBA replay referee liaison. Steve Foxcroft, guest number 2 on the Sportsline Podcast. And I mean, look, some 4.5 months later, here you are again. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Hey, great to be with you all the time. Like you said, blast from the past in the podcast, blast from the past in life as well. Because I was thinking of it today. We go back like decades, right? Like more 4 or 5 decades.
Yeah, it's been incredible.
It's
like
crazy.
Really, like, you fill in, you think about it and it's like, yeah, it's been a while. But then you start to fill in the blanks of, what's going on, with us as friends and then personally in our own lives, and it's like, wow, it's a long time.
It is a long time. And we got to say, I was the second ever guest, and I kind of ribbed you about it.
Yes, he did.
And you had the best answer that, as usual, put a clamp on me when we had our other show for all those years on cable TV. But Bubs just turns to me and goes, no, Donovan Bailey's the first guest, and he's always first at everything he does. So knock it off, you're second. So it's good to be back, though.
Second's pretty good.
Not bad at all.
You got the silver medal?
Yeah, that's okay.
You're on the podium.
I'm on the podium. That's about it. But right. Donovan Bailey.
And sadly, I can't remember who's number 3, but no one remembers bronze.
That's right. And then the person who loses the bronze medal game, that's even worse, right?
Fourth place.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm going to have to go back and look at the podcast. And sorry to number 3 and 4.
Oh, my God. Now, I'm excited today because I think I've elevated a bit because today it's you and I in the square off.
Yes.
We get into our box and we go at it, just like we've done.
Once we changed the format, you did issue and said, like, hey, I got to get on the show for that. Hey, before we get to any of that, I got to ask a couple questions about what's going on in life. And the last time we did hook up was at the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame, where you were the MC. And I would say this too, whether the cameras were rolling or not, you were spectacular. You had the whole house just coming down with, whether it's the kind of emotional or the tears or making people laugh. What a great night that was.
That's a fun night, and it's really, I look forward to it every year, Bubs, because we're honoring great people. And you and I have said this for many years. If you can be great in our Hamilton, Niagara, Halton region, you're automatically on a world-class level. And that night, we're honoring world-class people. And like you said, like, kind of make them laugh, make them cry, it's an emotional night. And the room is filled with characters. You and I are there every year, but the likes of the Tony Gabriel. And I'll give you this one too. When I arrived today here at CH, sit in the green room for a while, and Lee Knight had signed the board in there. So I took a picture and I sent it to Lee Knight, my favorite Tiger Cat.
I remember you saying that.
86 to 89, he's my favorite Tiger Cat. So I sent him a note. He replied right away. And he also mentioned the Burlington Sports Hall of Fame night and said, don't ever give up that gig. Because it's like you said, we're honoring great people. We make them laugh, make them cry. So it was good.
It was an unbelievable class this year as well, too. Some people that are well-versed in a variety of different sports, and I was just so honored to hear their stories.
Right.
Like individually.
Yeah, and we had Olympians there this time too. It just went on and on. We honor an official with the Lisa Turbot, the umpire.
Oh my goodness, who's going to be on this show soon.
Oh, love it. And she will. You'll have to do like 2 episodes with her, right? Because she has stories and tell. And then you get into her with baseball, with umpiring this year.
First female.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And there's tons of stories with baseball right now. And maybe the little square box, like we're going to get into in a minute with the strike zone. Like she can talk to that, and Angel Hernandez. There's so much going on.
She stood up for.
Exactly.
You kind of ripped him.
I was like, no way. But she stood up and said his percentages of correct calls is this and that. And then the other who threw out the Yankees manager for the fans said in the front row.
That's right.
Like, how can you do that? So we went at. So when you get her in here as a guest, you can pick up where I left off. Hopefully,
I certainly will. I will test her, but I'm sure she'll have quite the comeback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now we've got obviously our outstanding staff that are behind the scenes in the control room, and they've done some crack research, and it was really quick actually. So on the podium, the Sportsline podium, is Donovan Bailey,
yes,
yourself, and Connie Smith.
Oh, there you go. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
I'm honored. I am very flattered. That's pretty good. Connie Smith, the best, right? Growing up with Dan and Connie right here, like in these hallowed walls kind of thing. And I know you guys had the 70th anniversary recently too, and she came to that, and
which was just fabulous to see. We didn't know this as some of the younger people, and I'm kind of not really the younger ones. I'm more the middle. What an icon, what a personality, what a beauty, what a great representation for this area in our station.
And I think we don't realize too, and this has happened to me over the years with television shows like MASH and Johnny Carson, David Letterman, Jay Leno later on. You and I together growing up, we mentioned it's decades, 4 or 5 decades we've known each other, but how many people do you stay in touch with over 4 or 5 decades? You have friends, but we've stayed close. And someone like Connie Smith or all the others here that I've grown up watching on CH, we've literally invited them into our homes over the years, right? And they feel like part of family too. So when I go up to Connie Smith, it's like I know her more than she knows me. Absolutely, in a way, right? Yeah. And the others too. So that's where it's very special. And you're becoming that now too. You're invited into so many homes doing the podcasts and doing the sports. And now it's measuring in decades too. So
it is.
It's very, very special because you look at the footsteps you're following in the sports here under this roof, with going back to Dick Beddoes and Norm Marshall, and it goes on, and Paul Hendrick, Kenny Welch, Fred Anderton.
Yeah,
like
amazing. And Fred's going to be here very soon too.
Good.
At the end of the month.
Good. A little pre-plug, eh?
Yeah, gotta let people know, right? Yeah. But I mean, again, like someone like him, you're so correct, right? Like these are the people that set the standard, right? These are the people that set the standard at this network, and these are the people that people recognize and have recognized for years, even years after they're gone.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I can walk up to people and say, "Oh, I remember, Dick Beddoes, whatever." And I'm like, I was a kid, and all I could remember was that hat, and him never seeing him without a hat, and had that sort of crusty personality, yet educated, knew his stuff, well respected by people, not just in Hamilton, but around the country.
That's right. And especially in the Maple Leaf Gardens too, which was a big thing covering, like there was no Raptors back then. It was basically a little bit of Blue Jays, but the Maple Leafs were the
on 11.
Covered the game. So it was really great. And I think growing up, it's like what I said, we grew up knowing these people, and they were celebrity. Like meeting Norm Marshall, the first time I met Norm Marshall, and he watched our show.
He spoke in our class.
Exactly. Right? And he watched our show. And I'm thinking, and we were on TV and cable TV in Halton for many, many years. And to hear Norm Marshall say, "I watched you guys every week," and his wife would even say that. What an honor for us, right? To have these icons saying that. So, and then just to close on that with Dick Beddoes and Paul Hendrick and Norm.
Can I throw in one more name after that I really doesn't get talked enough about, and not just in Hamilton, but I think around the country, is Kathy Renwald.
Oh my gosh.
Kathy Renwald, the first, not the second, the first women's sportscaster to be going in locker rooms.
That's right.
Not just in Hamilton, not at CHCH. First.
That is well said. Like, very well said. Nothing moved in the Tiger Cats at Ivor Wynne Stadium without Kathy knowing, right? And reporting on. And she, a trailblazer. And yes, that's good call on that. And to finish my point, though, the Saturday afternoon games, those OUA games, Saturday afternoons, covering many sports, but just that was what we grew up knowing, right? And what I find it set us apart as Canadians, because Americans had their college football coverage all the time, but what we had was our Canadian college or Canadian university coverage too. And I'm very proud of that. And it was a big part of my fabric growing up too. And I feel it when I'm here.
Well, there's no doubt about that, because I can think about, just to close off this point here, there was two aspects of that, and I can think of it for you probably more so even for myself, right? Us growing up in Burlington, me playing, you going to MM Robinson, myself going to Assumption, playing high school football, and wanting to one day be on the CHCH game of the week.
That's right.
Like it couldn't have got any better than that. That hopefully I get to the next level and I can play on the CHCH game of the week. And then later for me, the pleasure to see you. Now I know you were always more of a basketball guy, and we did basketball here too. That you were up there as a young learning official, one of the better in the business though, coming up through the ranks, and seeing you do these games.
Yeah,
I know the ref.
It was such a thrill to do it and to be welcomed into all the universities where we traveled around. But the best part was, and back in those days, it wasn't digital or anything like that, and it was beta when we started. That's embarrassing to say, but I was beta, and then VHS. But it allowed me to become a better official because videotape was how we did it. I recorded the games, I went home and watched them, and I'll tell you, and probably a lot of the players that were watching going, yeah, Foxy, you should watch those games because you could have done a little better. But
you were awful.
You were terrible. But often it would be, I'd watch the games and I'd go, wow, that's all the player did to him? Why did I call a foul? And it helped me to have a more patient whistle as a referee. I'm talking referee talk now, but I was more patient and called less.
Right.
And I think it helped the game too, you know?
Ready to talk some sports?
I am. I'm ready to get at it.
All right, let's do this. Let's square this off a little bit. There's lots of stuff to talk about. It's so busy right now. Oilers remain alive in the Stanley Cup. They were down 3-0. It looked like it was over. It's now 3-2 Florida after 5-3 and 8-1 wins. Do you see them coming all the way back?
I don't see that happening, Bubs. But I will say this. The series, when it was 3-0, to me, it really wasn't 3-0. Florida had a forecheck. Edmonton turned the puck over a few times. It ended up in the back of their net. So I do think that these games, even though it was 3-0, they were much closer than a 3-0 score. They could have gone either way. Edmonton made a few mistakes that were capitalized on by Florida. And in the last two games, bingo bango, it's gone the other way, where Edmonton, it's not necessarily with a forecheck, but Bobrovsky has looked human all of a sudden, hasn't he?
I think it's interesting that all of a sudden in these last two games, and we're going to see what we saw in Game 5, they have found a way, the Oilers, to open the game with getting good goaltending and scoring shorthanded goals.
Yes.
That's a huge emotional lift.
Here's the one, Connor Brown, right? Like shorthanded, turns it the other way, and scoring first on the road is huge. Scoring on special teams, like, you know, at the start of the series, everyone was saying Florida, the most penalized team, they can't take penalties in this series or they're going to pay the price. Well, in the first few games, they didn't pay the price because of Bobrovsky. And this was Tkachuk making I actually thought that was it. And he might have been better taking the net off the moorings there. But he didn't, and McDavid sealed the deal. But they talked about Florida having to stay out of the penalty box. In the first two games, it didn't hurt them because Bobrovsky stood on his head. In the last couple games, the power play they're owning it. Edmonton has shown up. So what they said before the series started, although it didn't affect the first few games, it's come into play now. So I still think Florida wins this thing.
In 6 or 7?
I think in 7. I agree with you. There's no way Florida's winning in Edmonton.
It's going to. I mean, who knows? Maybe Shania Twain Part 2, right? Like maybe
the encore.
The encore performance. Anything to get that team over the top, and I think they're going to be ready. I think they sense it. I don't know how much momentum there is when you play only one game every 3 days, but I feel like they have that confidence right now.
Question for you too. Does Bob show up again, or is he done? Is he rattled?
You got to get to him early. I think that's the difference. This is no different than any other goaltender. Traffic in front, tipping goals. Hyman is a guy that can do that. Even if it means running him over once or twice early in the game to set a tone, right? Like, I don't know. I think they're, as they say, they're in their kitchen.
They are in their kitchen for sure. Just like I got in your kitchen when you were at Assumption and I was at MM. I don't care what you put up in these bubbles, Bubs. I know there's something going on behind the scenes here, but I'm not buying it.
Is Connor McDavid the postseason GOAT? And let me get to this here. I put something out on Twitter and people went, and I'm talking about us, like people that are that are out in the media that were all over me. In 1985, Gretzky recorded 47 points. That's an NHL record in 18 postseason games. As I said, that's a record. Right now, Connor McDavid has 42 points in 23 games. I think Gretzky's still the best, but people are telling me that it's harder to score goals. The goaltenders have the tiny equipment, that they're not as athletic. Anyway, the floor is yours. What record? Because it looks like McDavid may break the record. Who's better?
Yeah, he may break the record, and this might be because of my birth certificate and watching Gretzky and loving Gretzky. But I think with McDavid too, to be the GOAT, you have to do it more often than in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And that, to me, is what he's done so far. He's done it over 3 or 4 weeks once. So, and he may get the record. If it goes 7, he has a chance to get the record. I don't think he's going to get the record, but Gretzky has done this like for a decade, basically. He was the GOAT for a decade. So they're both surrounded by good teams and good players and all that. But no, McDavid, he would have to do this for another 5 or 10 years to reach GOAT status, in my opinion. Good hockey player, but really, like, Gretzky was far and away the best player. And then I'll throw this one at you. We're talking Gretzky. Does Sidney Crosby enter the conversation? Like, is McDavid maybe third?
I think he is third, because I would put Mario Lemieux ahead of him.
Good call.
Right?
There you go.
That's just me, right? And I don't care if if scoring was easier, or I just, the way I see it, I think when you have to look at it too, and you raise a great point about the frequency. When you look at that top 10 list, again, I'm just coming off the top of my head. Don't be all over me if I'm wrong here, folks. I think on the top 10 scoring list in the postseason, Gretzky's on it at least 5 times, right? 5 times, maybe even 3 times in the top 5. Right? McDavid is there, and he may well continue to do this for other times in his career. And I think also, even though there's the points, and I don't know how much you judge points, but Gretzky's got titles.
That's right.
And I think you have to get that title before you start throwing around the word GOAT in playoffs, regardless of points, right? And I still think you also have to factor in put in as a factor that when Gretzky was playing, the first round was only 5 games, a best of 5. Everything's a best of 7 now. So you're going to have an opportunity in each postseason to have more points than Wayne Gretzky did, and many others well before him as well too. Hey, we even go further back. What about when the first round was a best of 3, second round was a best of 5, and then best of 7 after that for the championship rounds?
You got to keep the engraver busy. And Gretzky, he kept the engraver busy. And McDavid, he hasn't even got his name on the cup once yet. So this is still a story that will play out. We'll maybe judge it in another 10 years. But right now, Gretzky. I go with Gretzky.
All right, I saw you sitting in section 103, I believe that is, for the home opener for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Just a mind-blowing, shocking 33-30 loss to the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who scored 13 points in the final 2 minutes of the contest and steal the victory. The Tiger Cats 0-2 now in the season. The Roughriders 2-0. Do you trust that the Tiger Cats, and it could start this Sunday when they go to Regina for the Roughriders their home opener, do you believe they'll turn around their season in a hurry?
Well, I loved when you had Coach on after the game, and you brought up that point of they have a chance to redeem this tough loss right away in a week's time. But then you added the point of, well, it only redeems itself if you go out and win.
That was RJ Broadhead.
Is that what RJ said?
Broadhead.
Yeah. So it only redeems itself if you go out and win, and you've coughed up a 10-point lead with 5 minutes to go. So the teeter-totter is going to look like I'm negative, but at the end I'm going to be positive, okay? So, but let's go over a few things that irked me a little bit, other than just the 10-point you're up 10 with 5 minutes to go. You should close the deal. And I think they did a few things wrong during the game. First of all, the first drive of the game, I think, came back to haunt them. They were rolling, and they settled for a field goal. 4 points. 4 points that they didn't get there. Would have came in handy at the end of the game. The other thing, in the second quarter, they punted the ball. And I'm not totally sold yet on our special teams coach. So it's going to be another thing that plays out like the Connor McDavid story. But they did like an American play where they downed the ball at the 1 yard line, but that in Canadian football is a no yards penalty. So Saskatchewan ended up getting the ball at the 16 yard line. And I debated with people, and they said, no, you're going for field position there. And I'm arguing, no, you take the single point and give up another 15 yards in field position. It's the CFL. It's a big field, and the defense was playing decent in the first half. So a couple things there. Then with 5 minutes to go, up 10, they played not to lose. And here we go. This is good Bo Levi right here. Alluded, stepped up in the pocket.
He looks great, eh?
He does. This is not Bo Levi at all. But with 5 minutes to go, they ran the ball right up the guts. 3 different drives on first down, and they're announcing that they're trying to run the clock out. Excuse me, it's the CFL. You can't do that with 5 minutes to go. With 3 minutes to go, the other team's going to get 2, maybe 3 more possessions. So we had in the last 3 drives too many 2nd and 10s. So I think that's something that I want them to clean up and keep the pedal to the metal, Bubs. You have to keep the pedal to the metal. It's the CFL. So we handed the ball back to Saskatchewan too many times. Sorry to ramble on, but the positive to it, as I said, the teeter-totter might seem that I'm negative. I like this football team. They're 0-2, but they're a way better football team. And I think Coach, I like Coach. I think he's good, and I like Bo. Got to keep him upright and healthy, but good football team. I'm okay with them.
Yeah, I think that you're going to turn the corner real quick, and for all those reasons. And I think, yeah, you're right. They're young, and really, history has shown us that it's been a trend over the last 3-4 seasons where they've been 0-2, 0-3, 0-2. Like it's a weird trend in Hamilton. Now, maybe a lot of that has to do with the fact that for whatever reason, the schedule makers has always backlogged a lot of their games at home in the second half of the season. They've always got to go out west early, and maybe not this season so far where East are 4-2 versus the West, but that's not the trend normally. Normally the West is always the best, right? So those are tough games that the Tiger Cats have. I just thought in front of the home crowd up 20-7, you got to find a way to put that game away. Done. That's it. Like no, nothing. I don't want to hear it. Like, you got to put it away. And I know the other team's trying hard, and we hear about halftime adjustments and all that kind of stuff. And, but I still thought, okay, you know what? Rough Riders got 10 early points in the third quarter, but then I saw the Tiger Cats wrestled back that momentum. But like you said, you got to find a way to close that out. Late in the game, Barlow comes up with his third sack. It's 2nd and 17. Trevor Harris, for as good as he is, you can't allow him to convert a 2nd and 17 plain. And I'm not saying anything that the Tiger Cats wouldn't be saying, right? You can't allow that to happen.
Yeah, 2nd and 17, and the guy catches it and had his knees knocked out too, right? He couldn't even walk.
His cats and toes took him apart.
Yeah, he couldn't even walk after making the catch, but they got the first down out of it. But here's what I'll say about being 0-2 this year and why I feel a little better. The losses haven't been as bad as previous years. So we're 0-2, but we looked okay. It was Saskatchewan, though, too. Like, for what you say there about getting the job done when you're up like that late in the game, because we're playing Saskatchewan. We're not playing like the Winnipeg Blue Bombers of a couple of years ago who are rolling, Get the job done.
Minus 11-point differential to your point there, which is certainly pretty respectful. Means that games are tight and certainly they're not getting blown out.
And plus, it's coach's second game, as a head coach.
As a head coach with this team, I mean, he's been a head coach, with Montreal, with Toronto for many, many years. He's won a Grey Cup. He knows what's going down.
The other thing I do like a bit, I know we'll move on, but penalties. Saskatchewan was the team taking all the dumb penalties.
Yeah,
so
dumb.
That I was just like, that's another thing where a sign of we've changed a little bit. So let's move forward and get a win this week.
NBA now, the Celtics win in 5 games. They knock off the Dallas Mavericks straight up. I mean, 16-3 in the postseason, these Celtics. 80-21 overall when you combine the postseason and their regular season record. Was there any, you watched this team from floor level at center court. Was there any doubt that they were going to win?
They were the better team. You know, like even a guy like Porzingis comes in and gets all this attention and all that, and it's Porzingis. But the thing with the Celtics, too, is they're brainwaves. Like the coach is more like a Harvard grad. Tatum is speaking to Harvard grads. Like these guys are smart, too, and they're, even though I don't love them, they're likable. They're likable, I think. And Doncic, too, he seemed to run out of gas, and everyone was throwing dirt on him for not playing defense and that, and blaming the refs. And
he's a bit of a crybaby.
He was a bit of a crybaby, but you also got to realize that's what he is. Like he only brings it on one end of the floor no matter what. So kind of like Porzingis that way too, right? So, but the Celtics, yeah, better team. They were well coached. They got the job done. But they had to be like one of those teams that had to lose before they win.
Yes.
Like they had a lot of heartbreak over the last few years, including tough series against Toronto going back a handful of years too. So, you know, Celtics were the better team. They got the job done. You could almost see that game 4 when they lost by like 100.
38.
You could almost see that one coming, right? They had checked out. They were like, no, let's go win it at home, and they did.
I threw something out there on Twitter kind of to that angle, and look, I've been around too many professional sports athletes as yourself to ever say that teams want to lose, okay, or they tanked. It just doesn't happen, folks. It doesn't happen.
And but
there can be sometimes a slight little drop in intensity. And boy, didn't it look like it was so much nicer to win the NBA, lift the Larry O.B. trophy at home instead of doing it in Dallas?
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, we're all human, right? And then anyone, go to Vegas and stop anyone on the street, and they'll tell you there's no such thing as a sure thing. And so there you go. But they got the job done. They did it at home. And Mike Breen, the announcer, he kept saying this building is ready to explode. Yeah. And they certainly were. Their record 18th championship for the franchise, but it had been a while.
Yeah.
Like it had been a while. So they got the job done. They were the best team. Coming through the West was a monster ride for Dallas, though.
Yeah, it really was.
You know, we're Hamilton. Like I was rooting for OKC. I wanted Shea to do great, and gosh, they were close too. They were this close. So look out for them next year.
Let's go to the PGA, the U.S. Open. Some are calling the best 4th final round in the history, the long history of the U.S. Open. Bryson DeChambeau, what a winner. Like, he deserved that, celebrated it with the crowd. But somewhere in the depths of the score room was a man by the name of Rory McIlroy. 3 bogeys in his final 4 holes. He had control of the tournament. Some are calling it the biggest choke in recent memory in golf and major championship history. Where do you stand?
Boy, I'm leaning more towards the Bryson being Bryson thought. And here's why. Remember a few years ago, he said, oh, Augusta, it's a par 65. Yeah. He was like, and the whole Brooks Koepka thing, they were calling him Brooksy and everything. And he was gigantic. He was Arnold Schwarzenegger jacked. But look at him now. He's changed everything about himself, his body, the way he looks at it. He's a much more humble guy. He's a man of the people. So I give him credit for recognizing that, let's face it, he was a bit arrogant. He was a bit of a goof. And he thought he could overpower golf courses by jacking himself up. But he's slimmed down a little bit. He's still muscular and in shape and all that. But he looks more like the rest of the golfers, where he thought he could just transform the game. So I like to look at it that way. Now, Rory, look at that. That's me on the 18th hole at any course around here. So I get it. That was Bryson. Sorry, that was Bryson. Here's Rory.
The door is open now, right?
Yeah, and there's Rory. Sorry, I messed that up. But I don't know. Is it the all-time choke, or is it just Pinehurst number 2. Like, I played Pinehurst number 2.
You're familiar with this course.
Like, we are down there. We're like, and look at that, the celebration, the glory there. That's getting the job done. I love seeing this here. And that's real. Like, that's real. That's real, too. You know, Rory is ticked. He did the trunk slam. And again, I've left Cheneau Golf Course slamming my trunk and driving off like him. You know, right now, I've missed those putts, too. But also, I don't make $1 zillion playing golf. And that's why I'm at Fluke Transport. But, yeah, I don't think, though, it's the all-time choke job because, look, they both did it. They both missed those putts. So I don't think all-time choke job. I think Rory, he's still one of the best. He's consistently top 10. He's winning his handful of tournaments.
And he hasn't won a major. I think Tiger Woods established this. Okay, Jack Nicklaus started it. Tiger Woods established it. Guys like Rory McIlroy and Bryson DeChambeau, they're measured by not winning the John Deere Open. It's major championships. Rory hasn't won a major championship in a decade. It's a decade now, which is crazy. He busted out with 5 real quick, kind of like Spieth. Busted out real quick. And here he is now. He didn't speak to the media after that loss. You saw how distraught he was. And then he put out a post on X or Twitter or whatever you'd like to call it, saying that he's taken a break from golf and won't return until the Scottish Open, which I think is 3 weeks from now. Like, he's clearly affected here.
He's going to take a month off, and it's needed. He needs to clear his head out right now because that's where it is. When you miss putts like that for both of them, too, it's pressure. It's what's in your head because it's not talent at that point. So with Rory, boy, it's been 10 years, but do we expect too much from him? Because, like, how many guys are knocking off majors, like 1 or 2 a year and all that kind of thing? There's a lot of guys who have won majors, and they could be the next Tiger. They could be the next Rory. Like Brooks Koepka, too. Like, was he around at the end? And some other guys, Dustin Johnson, disappeared with all that talent. He's gone to live, and he might as well have gone to the moon because like he's nowhere to be found right now.
Yeah,
you know, so you got to temper the expectations too. But Rory, the one thing about him, he may not be lifting the trophy over his head, he may not be kissing it, but he's right there with a chance to. So I give him credit for that. And kind of like what he said too, that was part of his post, right? He said, look, I need to take a break. I'm happy with my legacy, no matter how it plays out from now. I've got my 5, they're in my back pocket, and I'm knocking on the door. I got a few seconds, I got a lot of top 10s.
Sticking with the U.S. Open, we've spent the better part of 2 decades watching Tiger Woods and his absolute level of greatness. In fact, setting a standard that has been probably, you talk about setting standards and just believing in someone. Do you find it hard to watch Tiger at 48 years old, missed the cut, +7, kind of in contention after round 1, as we've seen with some other major championships? This actually will be the first year where he's been able to compete in all 4 major championships in nearly a decade. But he's 48 years old now, and the camera's still showing every shot of Tiger Woods. Is it hard to watch?
No, not for me. I'd watch him cross the street if you let me, because I'd watch him go and get coffee in the morning because he is Tiger Woods. And, you know, earlier we talked about a Wayne Gretzky as the GOAT, and there's only a handful. Michael Jordan would be another one. There's only a handful of people that I'd watch go get coffee if I could in the morning and hang around. And it's kind of like one of those things. If you could invite 3 people over for dinner, who would they be? Well, if it's golf, Tiger Woods is at everybody's table. So no, I want it because there's that thing of what if? What if this is the time? Because you know what we saw? Like you said, he's walking better. He's physically better. He's getting it back together a bit. So then you got to say to yourself, is this the time? Will he put it together? And to me, there's only 3 guys: Jack Nicklaus, Phil Mickelson, and Tiger. And there might be others before, like those great ones before, like a Tom Watson, Arnold Palmer, Gary Player. Maybe they did it. But in my lifetime watching, it's only been Nicklaus, Mickelson, and Tiger that have won majors at an advanced age. So for that reason, I'm watching everything he does, and I want to.
Yeah, it's strange. It's this weird feeling I have. And when he isn't it crazy to you that overall he doesn't have a chance to win major championships anymore? He keeps saying all the right things, and I'm right there. Like, he keeps saying all the right things, because I think he actually believes it, right? He's said it for so long. I got to do this. I got to do this. I don't got my feels, all that kind of stuff. The Tiger language that we've grown so accustomed to. But it's funny that no one is following any other golfer, even on a final round, more than Tiger Woods. Because why? I don't know. Like, do we all wax poetic about the past? Can we not just maybe say that we saw the greatest of all time of any sports? I keep telling people younger than myself that we will never see anyone, in my opinion, in any sport dominate for a decade like he did. Like, think about it. It was a decade of absolute domination, like destroying the record book. That won't happen in any other sports. We'll see people go off for 3 or 4 years, as we have seen in golf. We just talked about Rory. We talked about Spieth, Morikawa. I think Scottie Scheffler is in the midst of it right now. But I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be 15 major championships long, right? Over a decade. It's crazy to me.
It's what your resume says you are. So Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, Scottie Scheffler's building one now. Remember when Tiger first came on the scene? David Duval was supposed to be, that was supposed to be the two of them going at it for the next decade. David Duval left the next week practically. Like, we only see him on the Golf Network walking around with a microphone now talking, but that's what it is. You gotta, and that's what we're going to talk about too, is rivalries and someone, the Batman to your Robin and so on. But it's all about the resume. So Tiger Woods, he's the only guy walking the planet now with his resume.
I don't know if you saw it on Sunday in the WNBA, and these two individuals, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, they had a little bit of a rivalry that stemmed a couple of back-to-back seasons in the NCAA in the tournament, semifinal and final. Now, they played on Sunday, their respective teams. Angel Reese clocking Clark in the head, got nailed for a technical. Reese said there shouldn't have been a technical. Anyway, regardless, the game was the WNBA's most watched in 20 years. Does this surprise you?
It doesn't surprise me, because this has been building and it's a crescendo, and they have to use this now to build the WNBA and to keep it in our living rooms watching, because, like, we just said it. Batman needs Robin, right? Foxy needs Bubba. Bubba needs Foxy. Magic needed Bird, and Bird needed Magic. And that's what changed and put the NBA back on the map and to what it is today. That's where it started, with Bird and Magic. And Caitlin Clark, wow, what a talent she is. Angel Reese comes over there and puts it into the 7th row. Boom. Caitlin's a little groggy, because watch this.
Okay, is it a technical? Is that a technical? You know.
No, like, to me, no.
Really?
To me, that's a bad.
They went and looked at this on replay.
I'm sorry, yes. That one there, from that angle, I thought we were watching another play. But that one there, and the reason why it is because it's head contact. So if that's just on the arm, no problem. But because she came across the head, I was watching the other player, actually, now that I see it again. Right there, boom, head contact, and that's what we're ruling out of the game. So no, boom, that's a flagrant one, technical, if you will, and it's properly called in that instance. And probably they shouldn't have had to go to replay to see that. But let's get back to this. This is like Hulk Hogan and the Iron Sheik. These two people don't like one another, and the fans, what are we left to do? We have to choose. Growing up, for me, it was the Celtics and the Sixers in the Eastern Conference. It was Dr. J against the Celtics. Had to choose one or the other, right? Well, this is it. There's no in between. There's no, Caitlin Clark, but Angel Reese is good. No way. Yeah. You are fiercely divided, and you're on the side of one or the other, and it's great for the WNBA, and it's great. Can you imagine when Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese come to Toronto with the new franchise? Like, you won't get a ticket. It's going to be great.
Well, it will be great, and you're right. The rivalries are certainly needed, and both of them are playing the part. I think Angel plays it probably a little bit more. She's less coy about it because she's very vocal about it, and the fact that she, as you said, I thought to myself when I saw that replay, that you just clobbered someone in the coconut. How could you not say that's a technical? I agree, you're trying to swat the ball away, but you just hit her in the head, and you're right. I'm glad you brought that up. That we're trying in sports to prevent head injuries and that kind of stuff, and it was a bad look. But regardless, though, people are watching, and that's good. And no matter what, whether it's people getting clocked in the head or people going off for 35 points, I think there's a lot of people out there that in the WNBA would wish we would be talking about other players other than Caitlin Clark. But it is what it is, and ride the success while you can.
It's appointment television, and not too much is appointment television. Here's my Sunday. Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese at noon led right into the leaders teeing off of the U.S. Open Golf. So it's appointment television. So, and the one thing you said there, Bubs, that I have to say, Angel Reese is playing the part. Don't think that Caitlin Clark isn't either, the way, because the more rough around the edges Angel Reese gets, the more just perfumey that Caitlin Clark gets, and she just gets more all-American, down-to-earth, apple pie. Oh yeah, it gives me something to work for. I'm not on the Olympic team, so yeah, that'll give me something to motivate me and work hard for. And Angel Reese, wow, you don't deserve to be on the Olympic team, and I'm going to clock you in the head and everything. So the worse that Angel Reese, it just separates it more, right? Angel Reese is going one way, while Caitlin Clark, I'll just be nicer going the other way too. So it's making
what's upsetting the girls in the WNBA is a lot of the fan base, or at least the people that actually are kind of the outskirt fans. They're going to Caitlin Clark, and they're buying the I got to work harder. That conversation.
Exactly. Anyway. She's going the other way, so it's great, and it's getting eyeballs, and that's what it's all about.
Maybe not getting as many eyeballs as they hope to get right now are the Toronto Blue Jays. Okay, under 500. They can't get over 500. They're getting blown out by the Red Sox right now. They're trying to avoid a sweep, and it's a Canadian player, O'Neill, that keeps hitting home run against them. Anyway, regardless, under 500, nowhere in contention, at least the winning the AL East. If they get on a run, maybe they can make a run at the wild card. But as it stands right now, an announcement comes out that they have now moved their 2025 season ticket renewal date to mid-July, upcoming right now for next year. That is more than a month earlier than last year. Is this a bad PR move?
Everything's bad PR right now with the Blue Jays. They can't keep the ball in Jellystone Park. They can't keep it in Rogers Center for the other team. They can't hit anything, too. They could go up with a toboggan right now, and they wouldn't be able to hit. How many guys? 4 or 5 guys? Probably, I don't want to exaggerate. 3 guys in the lineup hitting under 200. Under 200 is hard to do.
Mendoza line.
It is the Mendoza line. It is terrible. And they are wasting a decent starting pitching staff, too. Everybody knew you're not going to be as healthy as they have been in the past. But these starting pitchers, if I'm them right now, when is one of them going to blow up and just lose it? Maybe a Gosman or a Bassett, they might just lose it one time and say, I'm throwing BBs up there and you guys can't score a couple of runs to help me out. It's just Mark Shapiro, right on down. That's where it starts with you saying too, let's move up the season ticket renewals. No way. How about moving up somebody up and down the lineup? And what about if Vladdy Guerrero was named Foxy or Bubba or John Smith, would he get the love or would he be benched? Because actually he's come on a little bit lately, but for all that time, it's because he was Vladdy Guerrero. And the same with Bo Bichette, too. Bo Bichette has his month where he's going to hit the cover off the ball. Okay, but
Still
now,
waiting.
I don't you know what the problem was with the Blue Jays where it started? Alex Anthopoulos. He was sitting right there in the office, and Ted Rogers got rid of him. And since then, it's been downhill ever since.
You're saying it's Shapiro and Atkins.
Yeah, I really do think that.
People hate them. I really don't like using that word, but there are people in this station that I work with that are more than the Leafs, more than any other Toronto sports team or any of the local sports teams, even including the Ticats, they are Blue Jay fans, and they cannot stand the general manager and the president of the team, and truly believe exactly what you said.
Because what they're saying is they think we're stupid and we're blind with their comments. Like, they're thinking, like, and here's the other thing. So say they make a push and make the playoffs as the wild card, the last wild card. You know what'll happen is, like last year, they'll go into Minnesota and they won't score a run. They won't do anything. So what's the big deal of making the playoffs if you just go and you get pounded by the opposition, and in embarrassing fashion too? Nobody's lived up and said anything about the Barrios thing where they pulled him when he's having the start of his life and everything like that. But
remember them being up 8-1 against Seattle?
Oh, and that
at home.
Like,
that was worse than the Tiger Cats loss.
That's right.
This is a playoff game.
So to your colleagues here at CHCH, I'm kind of with you, because what Shapiro and Atkins are kind of telling us is they're smarter than us, and we're not seeing what we're seeing.
It's head scratching to me. Like, it's a bad move, and I know. I guess Rogers, as an organization, they're in a situation. They've spent hundreds of millions of dollars to upgrade the ballpark, which, by all accounts, it is much better to watch a ball game. It is now a baseball feeling park as opposed to when that was built. People will refuse to agree with me, but the truth of the matter is, when they built Rogers Sky Dome, it was for the Argonauts.
Yeah.
Like, it was a football field, right? That baseball used as well too, and the configuration changed, but it wasn't. There were seats that were home plate was there, and you were sitting there. Yeah, that's the way your seats were facing.
Well said. And it was also built from the top down, right? It was about playing 80 home games a year. So really, it was about the lid on the on the top of it to keep the place dry, and you know you're going to play a game, rather than the comfort and feel of what it was for baseball.
Well, there you go. That's your Sportsline podcast for the day. Steve, you have been outstanding. It's been great to get your opinions. I knew this was going to be a good one. We've covered the gamut. I appreciate, you always coming in, and I appreciate the support that you have always given me in terms of my television career. I feel it. It's important to me, and it's going to be a great opportunity here for me to tell you I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I appreciate it too. You know that. We'll do it anytime you want. It's always fun. Really enjoy watching your podcast every day too. So keep up the good work, and we'll do this again soon.
Say again, so number 2.
Yeah, number two, but on the podium, but not Donovan Bailey. Quality there, yeah. But this is fun.
Hey, thank you, buddy. Hey, as you've just seen and heard, we love talking sports, and we love talking sports with good people that know what they're talking about. If you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote the Sportsline podcast, we want to hear from you. Please hit that thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. And if you do have something to say, Foxy will always say it. So please comment. For the wonderful people that make the Sportsline podcast possible, thank you so very much. And we'll see you tomorrow.